Welcome to the Better Advertising with BTR Media podcast. My name is Justin Knuckles and I'm your host on the show here. Today, I'm sitting alongside Zach Bican, and we want to talk about one of the brands he really shifted targeting into the category more so than relying on branded spend to achieve their RoAS goals. So welcome in, Zach.
Yeah, super appreciate you having me on. Looking forward to get into this.
First time on the show, been a longtime BTR media expert, so welcome on. I'll let you kind of set the stage for what you did with this brand, what you came into situation-wise, what you were dealing with before you really started deploying your own strategy in the account. So set us up, set up the audience for what you came into on this account.
Yeah, so we took over this account in March for a boating brand that we had just signed. What we saw when we went into the account was a heavy reliance on branded spend, branded product targeting, not much sponsor brand video, rank strategies. So after taking a look at the account, we saw a really big opportunity, especially with that seasonality factor with boating brands. So leading into their peak time, May, June, July, August, we saw a really big opportunity to shift spend away from branded into non-branded, using that category as kind of our backboard instead of leaning so much on branded terms and branded product targeting.
Yeah, and I think a lot of brands maybe don't ask enough questions around their other agencies when they're achieving their target RoAS goals. That's something we often see when brands come to us for an audit or to work with us, is they're hitting their performance goals, but they're not seeing their top line grow. And maybe that's because a lot of these other providers are just relying on branded spend where you are achieving target, goals and RoAS, but you're not driving that incremental growth, that category market share. And so sometimes you have to navigate difficult conversations with, we need to bid on these more aggressive terms, higher cost per clicks, lower conversion rates, of course, but this is where you're going to really achieve long-term success. So as you obviously had that idea to bring to this brand, how did you start off that conversation? How did you navigate, more or less pitching that to your brand?
Yeah, so I think the first step was really just education, right? Explaining the long-term effects, not being so short-sighted when it comes to just focusing on your RoAS goals in the short term, but rather looking at it from a tacos perspective of, if we can get to a place year over year where we're dropping tacos by 3 percentage points, but maybe your RoAS is $2 or $3 less, ultimately that's going to be better for your business, right? You're going to be more profitable, and owning those category terms and owning that top of search. Ultimately, what you're going to be doing, in addition to dropping tacos, is building your branding on platform, and building your recognition within whatever specific category you're going to be working within.
Of course. And, there are a lot of other factors that go into being successful in this strategy, right? Like, we're maybe taking for granted a lot of other things that this brand had in place, such as ratings and reviews, competitive price points, really outstanding creatives. So how did they look on that side of the business?
Yeah. We were tremendously lucky, honestly. Great products, great reviews, competitive price points, commercial grade video. That was specifically kind of a big, selling point for us, is when we saw those videos, that kind of triggered it in our mind. It's like, okay, this is something we can go full bore into immediately, and not have to worry about the lag time with getting creatives, getting them created, getting them sent over and set up. So they had really strong branding on their D2C sites. So great ad copy as well, for us to be able to use it and, be in lockstep with them from their branding perspective on their end to what we can put on Amazon, and that way, keep it cohesive across the whole e-commerce platform.
Amazing. So how did this go when you first started rolling it out, maybe in, say, the first 4 weeks or so? I'm sure you probably saw some changes in RoAS, right? I know you mentioned that you saw a decrease in tacos over time, which is, best case scenario, you see your top line grow, which means your organic sales are growing due to this extra category visibility. But how did RoAS look in the immediate term in the first, say, 2 to 4 weeks? Yeah,
we saw an immediate decrease in RoAS. We were anywhere from, 11 to 12, dropping down to 8.5, 8. But that's all a part of the education process, right? And letting them know, like, hey, this is expected. This is okay. Right now we're going to see these short-term hits on the immediate side, immediate sales and spend and all that. So yeah, with the immediate revenue, we definitely saw a hit on the ad sales side, right? But ultimately over time, with investing in top of search and rank, what we were doing is we were owning that number one placement on top of search, number one placement sponsored product, continuing to increase organic ranking. We were showing them visuals as we're going along, right? So we may see that ROAS drop, but we're seeing organic rank increase and organic sales percentage increase. So it became a lot easier conversation on our end once, you give them the full context, the full picture of what we were doing.
And really just patience, right? Because a lot of brands in the first 3-4 days, first 2 weeks are going to see that ROAS decrease and probably raise some red flags and say, hey, this isn't working. But the patience to stick it out and say, more people are seeing your ads, your branded volume is likely increasing. Is that something you guys saw as the branded volume overall increase?
Yeah, so we saw a strong, still branded search volume, search presence on platform. But ultimately, we allowed organic to cover that for us. We still had ad coverage with sponsored brand video and sponsored product under branded terms. We just really dialed back the spend on that. So, in our minds, when people are searching for that brand, more than likely they're there to purchase that brand.
Sure.
So we allowed that to organically do the work for us and come back on the back end and take those ad dollars and reinvest it into the category and have that category then, you're searching for trolling motors. It's going to be everywhere on that SERP. So that was ultimately the initial plan and what we had presented to them up front when we first signed them.
Amazing. Yeah. The only reason I ask about the branded volume is because, again, maybe brands want to switch back to that after seeing their ROAS decrease in their first couple weeks. But once you hit that inflection point of seeing total sales starting to grow, those organic ranks starting to increase, what did your conversations sound like with your client?
Yeah, it was. We just tried to make sure we're giving them updates, really, like showing them month over month, week over week compared to last year when they were running the more branded heavy strategies. So really those conversations ended up being really easy from our side because we were able to show them, hey, we're seeing increases in, total sales, total revenue while dialing back an ad spend away from branded. And we're continuing to be more profitable because of that, because we're investing more into our main category terms, our highest search volume terms, and overall being able to, I totally lost what I was talking about. I don't even remember your question anymore.
Talking about what were your conversations sounding like once you got to that inflection point of seeing your total sales growing, maybe taco started to decrease. Did the client finally understand it and greenlight more of this type of strategy?
Yeah, they absolutely did. So once they saw the results, right, of being more profitable overall while being able to decrease spend, they were immediately into wanting to expand into DSP, expand into more sponsored TV slots or anything that was more top of funnel focused. Because ultimately, if we can bring in customers directly from top of funnel into our brand, that's only going to be able to help that bottom line total revenue in the long run and be able to further decrease tacos over time.
Awesome. I have one more question, just going back to some of those other ad types that you were mentioning before, sponsor brand video, and specifically around category targeting. You mentioned commercial grade videos. What was probably the one strategy that you saw the most success with in terms of maybe conversion rate, really improving organic rank? Was it those sponsor brand videos, or was it simply just your bread and butter sponsor products?
It was really just our bread and butter sponsor product, single keyword ranking for those top 3 to 5 volume and conversion rate keywords. We saw those pay heavy dividends over time when it came to raising our organic rank, and ultimately, continue to lower tacos and become more profitable. The sponsor brand video as well does a great job with expanding your reach and branding on platform. So you become more noticeable and become more of a reputable brand as you're running those sponsor brand videos, especially with commercial grade creatives. It becomes a lot easier from an advertising perspective to sell your vision and sell your products when you have that as the first thing that a customer would see searching within the aisle for that product.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times advertisers and brands are guilty of looking at campaigns by simply just the ROAS, and this is where Amazon's great at now giving us a path to purchase. The sponsor brand videos probably played a huge part in helping those sponsored product ads convert at a higher rate because people have seen this product in action in a lifestyle setting. And so this sponsored product ad is speaking to them a lot more directly than if it was on the page with 30 other products and it looks the same, right?
Right, 100%. That creative really sets it apart. being able to differentiate it right with those other products that are within that category under that specific search term, you're able to basically tell the story of why you're different and why, even if it is a more premium priced product, as long as it's semi-competitive within that category, you have a much better chance of converting in the long term when your branding on platform is strong and you have strong creatives to back that up.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Zach, for joining us today. If anybody listening to this podcast has questions about how we've implemented a strategy like this or is questioning your own allocation of your advertising being too heavily branded or not invested enough in your category, then reach out to BTR Media. We'd love to talk, maybe take a look at the account. But again, thank you, Zach, so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Cheers. Thanks again for listening.